And we are back on the Zero Hour. I'm your host, Richard RJ Eskow. My next guest is, among other things, a mother, an advocate, a person with diabetes 1, and the founder of a group entitled Advocacy Out Loud. Mindy Renae Salango was recently quoted in the press on Capitol Hill as saying of people with diabetes, quote, "Our only option is to pay or die," end quote, because insulin prices are so high. And she joins us now. So first of all, Mindy Salango, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, well, it's an honor to have you. And, we've been talking on this program a lot about high drug costs in this country. And diabetics, of course, rely on insulin to stay alive. How much does it cost, just for people who don't know, for the typical diabetic to get the insulin they need?
If you don't have insurance, a vial of insulin costs about $300. And a type 1 diabetic typically needs between 3 and 4 of those per month. So it can be up to $1,200 a month just for the insulin alone. We have a lot more that we have to have as well in order to keep our blood sugar in check. So that's just one part of the equation and the most expensive part of the equation.
And if you have insurance, there are probably still co-pays and things like that can really add up, right?
Oh, absolutely. When I was first divorced and had to go exclusively on my own insurance from my employer, our insurance wasn't that great. And I was paying as much as my mortgage for my insulin alone.
Right.
Which was over $500 a month.
See, this is the part that I think people don't understand. They think if you have insurance, you're fine. But even with insurance, the co-pays can really add up. You have average household income is $60,000 a year in this country. A lot of people are below that. Even if you're at that level, you take 4 medications a month, winds up, it's like 10% of your income before you're done. So it really adds up, right?
Absolutely. Yes, I had insurance. It certainly didn't insulate me from this problem. Like I said, we didn't have very good prescription drug coverage. A single mom, had to make sure that I had food on the table, the bills paid. I was forced to ration insulin during that time. And, a lot of people don't realize that. So, just because you have insurance, it really doesn't insulate you from the issues, of rationing and hardship with affording your insulin. And or other prescription drugs.
I've heard you work with, of course, with other diabetics as well, but I've heard that a lot of people ration their insulin. And of course, it's dangerous. We had on this program, we had the mother of a guy in his 20s who rationed his insulin, but, calculated, whatever, luck of the draw or calculated wrong or whatever and died. So it's a dangerous practice to ration insulin, isn't it?
It's terrifying, actually. Death is absolutely the ultimate risk you're taking. You're also risking blindness, losing your eyesight, circulation issues, amputation of your limbs because of those issues, organ damage. So, the list goes on and on. It's deadly. It's very, very frightening. And to have to do it. And, and I just don't think that that's how this should be in this country. But a study by Type 1 International or T1 International, an organization that, internationally is fighting for lower cost insulin, said that it was before the pandemic. And they stated 1 in 4 diabetics are rationing or are not taking their insulin due to cost. And that's in America. And, and that was before the pandemic. They're saying that even after the pandemic, that's even risen. So we're in critical mass here in the United States. We've got a critical issue and people are dying because of it.
And, one of the things I want to talk about before we get on to some of the specifics of what you're doing, Mindy, is one of the things that I'm constantly struck by is just the kind of arbitrariness of it, which is really stressful and frightening. I mean, in my own case, I have a chronic illness. My insurance, there was an app where you can plug in the medications you take, and it basically said the difference between whether I picked the right coverage or the wrong coverage could be $40,000 a year. And it's like, wait a minute, let me wrap my head around that if I press the wrong button, or I don't know, or I fill out the wrong form or whatever, I could, I don't have $40,000 lying around. What happens then? Or do I die, or do this or that? And this is a reality. I think that a lot of diabetics, unless they're wealthy, live with day in, day out, year after year. And not only is there the risk of it, but I'm just trying to make it real for people, if they're not going through it, how stressful it is.
I mean, it's incredibly stressful. Just at the beginning of the year, I'm very fortunate now that I have, decent insurance that does cover, quite a bit. And I'm not in the position I was a few years ago. So I'm very privileged in that regard. But just in January, my employer changed insurance companies, and none of us were aware that this had happened. And I randomly get a letter in the mail stating they don't want to pay for the insulin I'm on. They want to pay for a different brand. Well, I've been on that brand before and I didn't do well on it. Mm-hmm. And so my doctor is having to appeal it. And, that takes sometimes months, to get an appeal to go through. And so it's like, am I going to get what I need? It's this whole rigmarole constantly that we're always struggling with. Is this going to be covered this time? And or am I going to be able to afford the copay this time?
And the time it takes to fill out the forms or do whatever you have to do, or try to persuade your doctor to go through it. I mean, I know all of that's huge too. It's like people have a lot of people working 2 jobs or a lot of hours at work. And all of a sudden you've like got to sit down and try to, wait 45 minutes for the nurse line to pick up, or, right? I mean, isn't that what you go through?
Almost monthly. It's always something. And people give up, and particularly in West Virginia. I mean, we live in a rural area. We don't have the greatest broadband access. So for people to try to go online and do things in these more rural areas, it's almost impossible. And we have an elderly population.
Right.
So to have these people have to sit on the phone and talk about things that, let's face it, the insurance companies and things, they make it so people don't understand.
Right.
They make it intentionally difficult. And
you bet. That 45-minute wait on the phone, that's not an accident. They know a lot of people will give up, and then they don't have to pay for their medication. Exactly.
And people are dying because of these things. And It's just, it's something I will never understand.
Yeah, well, I have to say I understand it. I think I understand it. I just don't respect it, because I think it's terrible to do to people. I understand why they're doing it for profit, but yeah. But I know what you mean, right? I mean, you don't understand on a human level how one human being or one group of human beings could do this to another. So tell us, Mindy Salango, about Advocacy Out Loud. What's that?
Well, this past year and a half, I've really been very vocal and outspoken about, lowering the cost of insulin and what's going on with people. And I just decided that I still have my day job, but I started Advocacy Out Loud. I want to help nonprofits and storytellers like myself kind of link up. And so that we can get these stories out, so that people do understand, and that our lawmakers can hear us, and that, we get our stories out so they understand what we're going through, so that we can actually get change made. And so that's the goal with what I want to do with Advocacy Out Loud. We just started in November, so we're still new, but.
So one of the things you indicated you really wanted to talk about with us is how the diabetic community, people in the diabetic community, are supporting each other through mutual aid. And that sounded interesting to me. What's that about?
It's honestly one of the most amazing things I've ever witnessed. there's a whole group of diabetics on Twitter, and I didn't realize this until, the past couple of months. And I mean, it is amazing. Somebody will put out, I can't afford to get my prescription refilled. Does anybody have any surplus or any extra? And we will all circle, we all reshare it and say, anybody in this person's area, and they will send it to them or meet them. In my particular instance, when I was kind of just on Twitter complaining about the fact that the insurance company didn't want to pay for the type of insulin I'm on. And so another diabetic said, hey, I switched insulins and I'm doing better on it. I have the kind you're on. Let me send you what I have left over. And then that way, during your appeal, you don't have to worry about switching and then switching back if they, get your appeal. Didn't charge me any for shipping, just shipped it right to me. I had it within 24 hours. I mean, it was just, we're taking care of each other. Here in West Virginia, in Morgantown, where I live, since I have been so open and so vocal on social media, I've had 6 other diabetics reach out to me to say, hey, I need insulin to get to payday, or, my insurance isn't going to kick in for another 2 weeks. And so I have met people in parking lots to give them my surplus or what I have available for them, so that one particular instance just kills me every time. This gentleman's wife reached out to me and said, my husband's switched jobs. He's in between jobs and his insurance doesn't kick in for another week and he's completely out of insulin. Well, we can't go without insulin.
Right.
The lifespan of a diabetic without insulin is between 24 and 72 hours.
Wow.
And she goes, he's already gone a couple of days and I'm scared. And so I met him in a parking lot, gave him the insulin, gave him the pen caps to inject it, everything he needed, just in case he didn't have it. I literally watched him inject it in his truck and then just lay his head on his steering wheel and start crying.
Oh.
Because God only knows how close he was to death. And so this is how we're surviving. This is how we're trying our best to take care of each other. We can't afford our own insulin, but if we've got a little bit left over, we're going to give it to somebody who needs it. Or, if they don't have test strips or, things for their continuous glucose monitor, we're going to sacrifice ourselves a little bit to help somebody else that's in worse shape. So this is how we're surviving right now in the United States. And I've seen, posts of people we're sending stuff to the Ukraine because the warehouse for one of the major insulin producers has been shut off by Russia. It's been closed off and they can't get anything out. And so people have been sending stuff to Russia, to the Ukraine. So they're the most big-hearted people you'll ever meet, but we're also struggling. We're struggling to survive, but we're not about to let one another die.
Well, that's inspiring at the same time as it's, infuriating that we have a system where people have to do that. And I would hope, what I would hope, Mindy, is that all those people in a state like West Virginia is a perfect example. All those people who are helping each other, meeting in parking lots, keeping each other alive, that each of those people is in a neighborhood, in a community, probably, church or, other groups that they're in, PTA, what have you. I would hope that over time, those people would become, preachers for, that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean, that they would tell storytellers for what you guys are going through and maybe help the people around them understand why we need to control drug prices in this country.
Oh, absolutely. And that's also another one of my goals is, I'm just one person, but I'm hoping my voice will inspire other people to tell their story, because I've had so many people come up to me and go, I didn't realize what you have to go through. I didn't realize people had to go through that with diabetes. Yeah, every day. This is what we do. And so I'm really hoping that we can get more people to speak up and speak out and, educate, because that's the biggest part of it, is just educating people. If I had a penny or $1 for every time somebody said, oh, if you just lose weight or if you just exercise more, or here, take some cinnamon. That's the big cure. No, I'm never going to be free of this. I'm never going to be free of this. I don't know. I've been told for 28 years, which is how long I've been diabetic, that there's going to be a cure in 5 years. So I don't know if there's going to be a cure in my lifetime. So I have to fight for people so that they don't have to die of this. We just reached the 100-year anniversary of insulin, and the inventors of insulin sold the patent for $1 because they didn't feel like anybody who needed it should have to pay for it, that it should just be free to the world, was what they said. And we have gone so far past that.
And isn't it funny that the different drug companies that sell insulin, their prices went up together like lockstep, almost as if they were breaking the law and colluding in raising their prices, together, going up and up and up. And now here we are, $1,200 a month to stay alive, right?
Exactly. I mean, they say they don't, but the House Oversight Committee, I don't know if you saw that report. They did the report, and I mean, you can see the graph. All three of them, all three of the big three, they're right there, all in lockstep. So there's no denying it. They can, and they can say it's about innovation, that they can't innovate, but we're the only country that allows pharmaceutical ads on television and on radio and other media. And for every representative, I was told by Senator Klobuchar, for every representative at the Capitol, there are 2 drug lobbyists. So they're doubled, and they get paid to do nothing.
Right. I did a video for Bernie Sanders, and I was like, what's with the 2 lobbyists? I mean, does one work the night shift and one work the day shift? How do they do this? Or do they double team? But this is the kind of money they throw around. And, some of us, like people say, are you saving for retirement? I'm saving for medications because if I don't have income coming in, how am I going to pay for all this stuff? And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. I know you guys are. So, it's beautiful that you guys are supporting each other. It's great that you're advocating for this. Where can people go to find out more about what you're doing?
I'm on every social media, Advocacy Out Loud. That's my handle on all of them. But definitely, we're really trying to just save each other and keep each other through this. Our federal government's the only one who can do something about it. And we really need the drug companies need reined in. The greed has gone beyond greed. It's just, I don't even know what we would call it now.
It's murder, if you ask me.
It is. No, exactly. It is.
Yeah.
And people are dying. And how long, what's the magic number? How many people have to die for somebody to step in and say enough's enough?
Absolutely. And by the way, before I let you go, Mindy, I love the name Advocacy Out Loud. Where did it come from?
Actually, my partner, Paul, thought of it, because I was trying to think of, a name, and he goes, but you're advocating, but you're being loud, and you're being, you're really getting it out there. And I said, okay, I really like that. So I have to credit him for that.
Well, if my partner told me I was Advocacy Out Loud, I'd think she was telling me, I'm a big mouth. But
I know that for a fact.
Well, that makes 2 of us. Well, listen, Mindy Salango, I encourage people to find you on social media at Advocacy Out Loud. And I love what you're doing. And I hope we'll stay in touch. And I hope you'll come back on the program sometime. I
would love to. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. And we'll be right back after this. I'm RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.